While we're waiting for everybody, I would like to just introduce the team, because obviously there's me here, Drew's here as well, partner in crime. I think most of you know, if you've come on our training courses, you'll know Drew. And then our two lovely actors this morning are Emily. I think Alex, I think you met Emily. And we've also got Will as well. Both of them are brilliant, and not just actors, but facilitators and coaches in their own right. So got a great team. I think I'm going to close the poll now, and let's just have a look at the results. All right, so let's have a little look at this, because it's quite interesting, isn't it? It's like, because the thing is, we're running this session, but trust me, we suffer from this just as much as everybody else. And that's why we thought it'd be a really good session to do. And although we're going to be looking at some really simple things, those simple things are the things that work, if you like. So it's good for us as well. It's a bit like, when you do an exercise class, and then the instructors at the front doing it with you, we feel a bit like that. We're doing it with you. So we're going to get just as much out of this as everybody else. So if we look at the results, you can see that there's a massive amount of you that are finding that you have to juggle your priorities unexpectedly every single day. Some people monthly, but most of you every day. And then if we go to the second question, we've got this one and some really honest answers here about what you actually do. So there's a lot of you sort of instantly scrambling and trying to do everything at once. And I think that happens for us sometimes, doesn't it, Drew, when we have something change in our life, where someone changes the goalposts or something. We got frustrated. Some people are calm and logical. We need a bit of that. That'd be nice. I don't know who said that, but we wouldn't mind a little bit of that in our team. And then finally, that question about your actual change capacity. So your tank. So in other words, your ability to deal with it. And it's interesting how a lot of you have gone with the halfway, because I'm going to stop sharing that now. And I'm just going to share my screen. But just go to this first slide. It's quite interesting because we actually mirror this group. So Gartner are one of the biggest, by the way, sort of research companies in the world. And they did a survey about how our capacity, our psychological capacity, has been affected by the constant change. And this is all since the pandemic, right, really. And you can see that actually our ability to take it on and deal with it has actually crashed on the whole by 50%. So it's not actually that we're less resilient. It's just that we are so bombarded with it that it's getting harder and harder for us to sort of keep that tank full. So that's the main reason why we thought this would be a really good session to sort of give to you that might be useful to help. So very quickly, how we're going to run it. There is no putting anyone on the spot. If you want to contribute, you can contribute in the chat. We'll be asking you to put some feedback in the chat. We're going to do some polls. If you want to come off mute and shout at us, you're absolutely welcome to do that. If you want to put your hand up, do that too. Just be aware, just be a little bit aware that we've obviously got a very short amount of time. So if it's a particular thing that you want to ask about yourself, then maybe save that, put it in the chat, and I'll tell you in a minute what we're going to do with any questions that are more personal to you. We're going to use the actors, Will and Emily, to sort of simulate a messy problem that actually is based on our world, but actually it's sort of fairly generic, so it will ring true for most of you. And we're going to show you 3 simple tools that you can use this afternoon. Hopefully not, because you're all knocking off after this and spending some time with your family, hopefully, and staying cool. But maybe on Monday you'll be able to use them, or you can share them. We're not precious at all. You can absolutely share any of this if you want to. If you are in the learning and development field and you want to do a session yourself and use this, you'll get everything. You can use the slides, whatever. Okay, so not a problem at all. Just say about questions, Drew, do you just want to mention to everybody what we're going to do about anybody's questions that we put into the chat?
What we plan on doing is, obviously, because we've only got 75 minutes today, we want to make sure that we get
I've only
as
got
much
60.
value.
Drew, I've only got 60.
We've only got 60 minutes. We want to be able to answer the questions, but we're going to use them as like a topic of discussion. So if you have any questions around adaptive learning or the stuff that's mentioned today, whack them in the chat. And what me and Deb are going to do is we're going to sit on a Zoom call and have a conversation when we answer them, and then we're going to send that out to everyone as some extra content after the fact.
All right, so let's get into the actual content. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a scenario that will run through the rest of this session. So we're going to show you it in bits, and then we're going to sort of come out of the scenario, get some feedback from you through a poll or from the chat, and then we're going to show you a model that is possibly something that might be of use to you to help you, and then we're going to go back into the scenario and see that model used, and it will go like that. 3 sort of fairly simple models. So in this scenario, we put it in our world. So put it in a training situation, but it could be anything. All right. So in this, Will and Emily are colleagues. They're working together. Emily's much more sort of involved in the training and design, and Will much more in account management and keeping the client happy. And what you're going to see is a Zoom meeting after they've received an email that just shook their world. Like I say, watch the scenario, and then we're going to ask you a poll question afterwards. So over to you guys.
Right, Emily, thanks for jumping on the call. I'm assuming you've seen the email that came through from the client. I mean, I'm completely reeling here.
I've seen it, Will, and honestly, I don't even know what to say. They want us to pull the entire launch forward by 2 full weeks, and they've casually mentioned that they're gonna cut the budget by 20% on the remaining work. I just feel like it's completely ridiculous. We've spent the last month building this out specifically for them.
I know, it is a complete nightmare. But if we push back or say no, look, they've hinted they might just put the whole project on ice until next year. We cannot lose this client, Emily. We really can't. I've been looking at my calendar and I'm completely overwhelmed. I'm going to have to rebuild all the presentation slides. I need to rewrite the handouts, rearrange our diary dates, and somehow compress 3 days of training into a shorter format. I mean, I've got no idea how we're going to get this done by 5 p.m. today.
Well, don't look at me to fix it. If they want a rushed rubbish job that won't actually help their staff, that they're just using for a tick box, they can do it themselves. I am not watering down my material or compromising the quality just because they can't manage their own timelines. It's a total waste of our time.
We don't have a choice, Emily. I can't just reply and say no. I've got to give them a complete new plan today. I feel like this whole thing is just falling apart and I don't even know which problem to look at first.
Okay, so we're going to take a time out there. Let's in the chat then. What do you think is the main thing that if you were going to look at this and you were going to give Will and Emily some advice in the chat, what do you think would be the main thing that they should let go of? So in that moment, they've been hit with it, rabbit in headlights. What would be the main thing that you would think they should let go of? Let's just see what comes up in the chat. Drew's going to keep an eye on the chat. You could do the poll or you could do the chat. We have both now. So it's up to you. Do the poll, do the chat. But Drew, do you want to read out some of the chat? Because I think we're getting some good comments anyway in the chat.
Yeah, so Sean's put emotion, but to do that, sometimes you need to vent. So vent, take 10 to chill, then reevaluate.
Yeah.
Chris has said unrealistic time frame that needs to be flagged. And Alice, I can't see the poll. I would say the 5 p.m. deadline.
If we're doing the poll, a lot of people saying rearranging the diary dots. So if we had to end the poll, I can share the results for those of you that did do it. I think there was 2 people that did that. So both saying the same thing. All right, so let's have a look at this first model. Let me share my screen. So the thing is, we absolutely know that when this sort of thing happens, it can really knock us. It's that immediate, like you say, reaction that we might have in terms of the emotion. But this is the first model, which is called the triage. And basically, it's 3 things. So what is the dead weight? In other words, what can we just park right now so that we can sort of give ourselves more clarity in terms of our mental capacity. So what can we just push and what is not essential? Then we might be thinking, okay, so what hasn't changed? So in terms of that situation that we just saw, what were the things that did stay solid? Because that is what keeps us grounded. That's a sort of just recognizing in that moment that not everything has changed, that there are some things that are actually stayed the same. And then what can we do in the next sort of 60 minutes? Okay, so this is one tool that you can use. Identifying the dead weight, thinking about what the constant is, and also thinking about what the next 60 minutes might look like. Now, obviously, you know, not everybody is going to be doing this, but if you know this and you've got somebody in your team that's having a meltdown, you can actually almost coach them through this. Right, just for a minute, let's just think about what we can just get rid of right now in this moment. What are the key things that haven't changed? Let's just put our brains together here and focus on what we can do. What can we do in the next 60 minutes? And there are some real strong benefits to this in terms of our psychological well-being. So the first thing, what it does is it stops that noise. Now, I take on board what I think someone said, and we'll look at this one a little in the next model, that actually a little bit of venting isn't a bad thing. So you can almost have that. But if it goes on too long, it wastes your mental capacity. So we need to be able to find a way to drop that noise. It also helps just ground everybody and make everybody realize that not everything has changed, so that we've got some constants. And also that sort of thinking about the next 60 minutes builds some momentum. But the key thing here is that anxiety lies in the future. And change causes anxiety, whether it's long-term change or a sort of short, quick thing that happens every day, like a lot of you saying happened to you. And if we can find a way to just take a step, breathe a bit, think about something different, it stops us spiraling into that place of, oh my God, this is going to be terrible and we just don't know how to deal with this. So it keeps your brain focused on the present. And for me, that's one of the key benefits to this. So let's see what happens now that Will and Emily have actually heard about this model and they're going to use it and see what happens. So we're going to see them using the model in a positive way. Okay, here we go.
If they want a rushed, rubbish job that won't actually help their staff, then they can do it themselves. I think it's a total waste of time.
Okay, look, you're right. It is a mess. But let's take a step back before we both completely spiral. Let's look at what we can actually take off our plates first. To save our sanity today, what can we just drop or park right now?
Well, if we're being practical, the extra workbooks were, that we were designing for the follow-up sessions. We were going to spend the next 3 days building those templates, and they're not actually essential for the initial launch day.
Excellent. All right, let's just park that completely. We won't touch them today at all. Now let's look at what's solid. What hasn't changed at all?
Well, like the core things they actually want their staff to learn hasn't changed. And the client senior manager is still definitely turning up to the open session. So I guess the backing is still there.
All right, good. Then that's our anchor then. The core material is still what they need. So based on that, what's the very next thing that you and I can actually get done in the next hour to move this forward?
Well, I can rough out a shorter plan for the day, one that keeps the heavy hitting practical exercises, but drops the non-essential theory books. I think it will take me about 45 minutes.
Perfect. All right, you do that, and I'll spend the next hour drafting a reply to their director to see if we can at least protect our delivery dates. Right, let's check back in on Zoom just before lunch, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, I know that it looks like a magic world we've created here where we just waved a lovely wand over something. Of course, because there's only one way to do this with the actors is to show you a bad version and a good version. And in reality, it might be that you need the sort of emotional outlet first and then come back to thinking about how you might be able to do this. And also, this is nothing like fundamentally amazingly new. I think we all know this, that we need to take a step back. We need to sort of think where we're at, take some time to sort of navigate it. But I think if we're not careful, we can get to the point where, we forget some of it. And if it's happening to us on a regular basis, it's always good to remind ourselves. Anything you wanted to add on that one, Joe, at all?
Well, I just think, I mean, in terms of the model is kind of speaking to that take a breath point, isn't it? And choosing a response rather than reacting to the information you're receiving. I mean, it's funny, we heard this in a training session a few weeks ago, and it's something we've spoken about ever since. And it's the 90 seconds you need sometimes to just to process what's going on for you. And I think it'd be unfair to say, do you know what? Get on with it. Right, you just gotta get the attitude. I don't know. We're not trying to suggest that we bring in some toxic positivity to get things done here. You know, artificial harmony and toxic positivity never work. It's about being realistic, allowing, like Sean said in the comments, allowing yourself to feel the emotion, and then finding a way to then work through that. That is succinct and allows you to not get bogged down in the panic, basically. So allow yourself to have the emotional reaction, then give yourself a chance of what to drop, what to make important, and what to do over the next 60 minutes. Just really sort of takes away the stress, away the panic, and gives you a clear objective to work through.
All right, let's have a look. Let's have a look at the scenario moving forward. So let's look at the scenario again. We're going to you imagine the conversation is carrying on. And again, watch this carefully. What we're going to get you to do afterwards is think about, you know, while you're watching it, think about the things that get to you the most. So when you're, you know, the rug is pulled, or the goalposts are changed, or the deadline shifts, or the budget changes, or whatever, what are the things that consume you the most when it comes to your day-to-day work that really sort of trigger you? So have a little think about that. And then we'll watch this one, and we'll introduce you to another model as well. So
I just don't understand how these massive companies operate, Will. Like, honestly, it baffles me. They hire us because we're the experts. They tell us they love our approach. And then some faceless finance team treats us like a number and slashes the budget. They just have no clue how much effort goes into changing people's behavior.
Oh, believe me, I know. Left hand doesn't have a clue what the right hand is doing over there. The training team promises us one thing, procurement cuts the funding, and the bosses are completely oblivious. It's an absolute joke.
Exactly. And then they wonder why their teams are so stressed out and disengaged. The top executives panic because the market shifts slightly. They change the entire corporate strategy on a whim, and then they expect us to swoop in with a magic wand and fix the broken company culture in half a day.
Spot on. It's totally exhausting. I bet you anything, we're going to do all this work today, and then they'll email us a completely different version of the brief tomorrow morning anyway. It honestly makes you wonder why we even bother.
all right, I'm just gonna go to one of the actors and actually just ask them. So Emily, so in that scenario, it looks like you and Will are enjoying that sort of moment in a way. What's going on there for you?
I'm just a bit fed up. I mean, I feel like we're the ones that are constantly pivoting around the customer, and at the end of the day, why are we always doing all the work just for them to click their fingers? And then they expect it again and again and again and again. And I've had enough.
Okay. All right. And Will, what do you think is going to change now as a result of you having that conversation?
Oh, I mean, it's brought me and Emily a bit closer, I guess. But like, I just don't think anything's going to change. They're just going to keep behaving the same way they always do. They don't trust us to be the experts. They think they know better. They try to undercut us. It just feels like they're always trying to get one over us.
Okay. So the thing is, this next model I'm going to show you is very much based on Stephen Covey's Circle of Influence. If anybody read, hopefully you've read that book, because if you only want to read one self-help book ever in your life, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is probably the one. It's the daddy or the parent of all self-help books anyway, but he had something called the Circle of Influence, because what you just saw there was Will and Emily just going on and on and on, and it changes nothing. I mean, in reality, that could probably go on for a lot longer as well, and it just sort of winds them up. So if we look at another slide, and then we're going to get some thoughts from you guys. So this is the, like I said, it's very much based on Stephen Covey's control versus consume. In other words, what can you control? So what is actually in your direct control? So what can you have complete and utter 100% energy on? What could you influence? So you might not have complete control, but you might be able to influence something. Because the other thing is, we sometimes when things happen, we shouldn't just accept everything. You know, there might be an opportunity to push back, to renegotiate, have a conversation, discussion, or maybe there's ways that we can bring in other people that might help us, but it would be an influence rather than an actual direct control. And then, of course, there's the consume zone, which is all the stuff around the management, the internal politics. It could be the economy. It could be, let's face it, I've heard myself moan about the orange man in America so many times about what's going on. I'm sure you're laughing because you know it's true. But the thing is, we can't do a damn thing about it. We have no control over any of that stuff. Now, like we said, it can be quite therapeutic to have a bit of a moan, but it's not going to change anything. And actually, it can get out of hand and start to bring everybody down. So just going back to what I asked you to think about, in the chat, what are the things that you find yourself moaning about the most? What are the things that consume you? Okay, so in the chat, we're not going to shame you. You know, there's no shaming this, no judgment. We can all have things that sort of wind us up. So just go for it. What are the key things that sort of really are your triggers that really consume you?
And try not to mention the heat and the weather at the moment.
Well,
'cause,
it's one of
we're all
them.
feeling that right now. That's it.
We absolutely could put that one in there. How many conversations has everybody had this week in meetings where you started by going, "Oh my God, it's so hot"?
This one.
Fantastic. Right, Drew, what are we getting in the chat box?
So Alice says disrespectful behaviour and unrealistic demands and requirements.
Yeah, get it.
Yeah. Aaron says urgent jobs given to you at the end of the day.
Yes, Aaron. Why is that the case? Why do people give us urgent jobs at the end of the day? Mind you, has anybody walked you into a shop 5 minutes before it's about to close? It's a very unpopular thing to do. But anyway, what else we got, Drew?
Wesy, is that I'm saying that right? I just want to make sure that I'm getting that right.
That's correct.
Thank you. All right, perfect. Just want to make sure. Impatient colleagues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Ad hoc requests with yesterday's deadlines. Sabrina says people not giving you time to reply or look at the request before chasing you.
Yeah.
Sean says usual things out of my control. So often my moans are very short-lived. Sudden change of direction at last minute is the most usual one.
Yeah.
Alexandra, managers complaining about unproductive employees' time and again, but never ready to do something about it. Georgina, changing directions of projects multiple times after the scope has been agreed.
Yeah, which is sort of what our scenario is about, Georgina, very much so. And, you know, although it's, it's a scenario that we've scripted, it is actually based on something that happens to us on a regular basis, I have to say. Anyway, but yeah, I think we can all relate to that. Now, there's not, obviously it's important for us to acknowledge how we feel, and it's important for us to maybe voice those and be heard. But we also need to know how to move past that, and to help, if we're leaders or trainers or HR people, we need to know how to help someone else move through it without going, I don't want to hear your negativity. Which is why I think if we just go back to the model, it actually works, because yes, we can have a little bit of a moan, but then we need to think, right, okay, now we've done that. Let's think about what is in our control, what do we influence, and what can we actually do? So it's sort of complementary to the first model we looked at. And again, here's some of the benefits to this. Thing is, what we don't realize is our mental capacity, if we've got little and it's happening all the time, if we're using it up, venting and moaning, then it doesn't give us enough energy to then take control. So just remember, when you're having that moment, if you go too far with it, you will be draining your battery, and so will your team as well. Bringing it back into what can I actually control? It means that you're putting the energy and the effort into something that is actually genuinely going to make a difference. So instead of me moaning and complaining about the American president, maybe I ought to be thinking, right, okay, so yes, it's affecting the marketplace right now, but what could I do? What's in my control? And I'll be honest with you, I've actually had this battle. Me and Drew and Emily have been working on strategies for our business for exactly this reason. We found ourselves doing way too much venting and not enough actually reclaiming. So, and then of course it does mean that you can start to actually put some outcomes, and it can help your team to get back on track. I would say you need to be careful though, if you're talking about your team, about making sure they're heard. Drew and I talk about all this time. I mean, obviously, empathy is the antidote to a lot of things. So actually just being an ear and listening is really important. But we also have the ability to be able to move things and go, right, okay, now we've done that. We've had that vent as a team. Let's talk about what's in our control now and what can we actually do. All right, let's see the good version then. Let's see Emily and Will be much more in control and a lot less in consume.
The top executives panic. They change the entire corporate strategy on a whim, and then they expect us to swoop in with a magic wand.
Hang on, Emily. Look, let's just stop ourselves for a second. We're just completely spinning our wheels, complaining about things that we can't fix. The client's internal politics, their bad management, their finance team. I mean, we can talk about it till we're blue in the face, but it's not gonna change anything, and it's completely out of our hands, and it's just draining us. So what can you and I actually decide or change right here on this call?
Fine. We can decide how we structure this new shorter plan to make sure it's still a really great session for the people in the room. I guess that is on us.
Exactly. That is 100% in our control. But what about the bits we can't completely dictate, but we can still shape, like this 20% budget cut? I mean, we can't force their finance team to give the money back today, but we don't just have to sit back and take it blindly either.
Yeah, you're right. And if we just accept it without a word, they'll assume that they can get the same results for less money. We need to show them that there's actual consequences for their decision. I think we can map out exactly what that 20% cut forces us to drop, like the one-to-one coaching follow-ups, for instance.
Spot on. That's where we have some real leverage, actually. Instead of just complaining about the cut, we give them a clear choice. Let's tell them we can do this for this lower budget, but it means dropping the coaching elements. If you want to keep the coaching, we need to look at the original fee again.
Yes. If we give our main contact the specific breakdown, she can take it straight to the director and fight our corner, I think. And it gives her the ammunition she needs to challenge the freeze.
Brilliant. Okay, I think that's changed this whole conversation. Look, let's focus the rest of this call entirely on what we can control right now, the new plan, and gathering the data for what we can influence tomorrow. It beats sitting here and stressing about their messy company.
True.
Just based on maybe a little bit of self-reflection here, and just be, you can be honest with yourselves. What's one thing that you can do to move from the moaning and complaining that you might do, whether it's in your own head? That's another thing, by the way. It might be going through your head, or it might be to your partner at home later. What's one thing that you could do to move the consume into the control? One thing in the chat box. Let's see what we get. A little bit of reflection, a little bit of a pause before we look at the final part of the scenario. One thing you could do.
The 90-second rule is a big one for me. Is allowing myself, if I react to something, giving myself a minute or 90 seconds to just think it through before I then blur or before I react. Yeah.
I think if it me, it'd be more, I don't think I can stop myself. I think I would be unrealistic if I said I could stop myself. But I think for me, it would be about being able to catch it and then check it and go, right, okay, you're going into that spiral. Stop, think, try and switch your thinking to something that you can actually do something about. So I think that's what I would do.
It's all about giving yourself a moment to become conscious of what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And not letting that emotion drive the way you react. So it's like let yourself feel it, become conscious of what you're feeling, and then have a moment to then choose a better response rather than the reaction, isn't it?
Right, what we got in the chat then? Let's see what everybody else is offering, because we can all learn a little bit from this. Anybody's got any advice as well?
Yeah. So Aaron says, take a minute to think before reacting.
That's what you said, Drew. Yeah.
Yeah. Alice says, reminding myself that I'm more important than the problem.
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that, Alice. That's really good. That's like a really sort of strong anchor, isn't it? Love that. Yeah.
Georgina says, list what you can control in the situation. Chris says,
By the way, just sorry, Drew, but that's really good idea as well, because when you go to a list, your brain starts to work in a slightly different way. It goes away from the anxiety into the logic. So that's obviously something that works for you, Georgina. I like that.
Yeah, I have to list everything. It helps.
Absolutely. Good idea.
Chris says, give time to think or talk through to a colleague, talk to a colleague to talk it through. Give time out to think. Sorry, I'm being jumped back and forth. Sorry. Give time out to think or talk to a colleague to talk it through. Yeah. Sabrina says, give yourself X amount of minutes for feelings, then take a deep breath and move on. Remember, spiraling is not helpful. It's in your hands to deal with it.
Yes, so Sabrina, you're right in Drew's camp, I think, on that one. Again, we're all going to be different. We have to recognize our own, what works for us. So a list might work for Georgina. Taking a moment and being aware works for quite a few of you. We've got someone that wants to talk it through with a colleague. That's not a bad idea either. It's what works for us. Yeah, what else we got, Drew?
Chris again says, often find if you have time to go for a short walk, it often clears the mind.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So get moving during that 90 seconds and all of a sudden everything starts to become freer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean says, cup of tea or coffee, then consider a plan which may include other stakeholders to discuss.
Nice.
Depends on the amount of coffee you've had already, Sean, doesn't it? I suppose, yeah. And then, yeah, sorry, that's the same one. And then Alexander says, asking myself, what reaction would I want my 8-year-old daughter to see from me?
Oh, we could
like
put
that.
anybody in that one, couldn't we? You could put what reaction would I want my 8-year-old granddaughter, or
Here's one.
yeah.
Be the person your dog thinks you are.
The words of wisdom. I think isn't that Ricky Gervais?
Something like that. Yeah, I don't know who it is, but it is in the same sort of sense of how would you want your 8-year-old daughter to see you? Just be the person your dog already sees you as.
Yeah, like it. All right then. So let's do the final model. Like I said, none of these are like mind-blowing and you're like, wow, I never thought of this. They are really things that are common sense, but it's just a reminder, just remind ourselves, ground ourselves.
Bringing it into the consciousness rather than being a reaction, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So let's have a look at the next part of the scenario. We're going to bring Will and Emily back. And again, have a little watch of this one. And then you guys are going to get a chance to do a poll to decide what they do next. There we go.
Right. Emily, I've looked at your short plan. It looks good, but we just need to move faster. I need you to send me the final slides and the detailed notes by Wednesday morning at the absolute latest so that I can package it all up and send it to the client. Can you just start making it happen?
Will, that Wednesday deadline is an absolute joke. It's completely impossible. I'm physically out on site running 3 other sessions this week, and frankly, I'm not going to burn myself out and work until midnight because the client can't get their act together.
Look, Emily, we have to pull this together. We have to all pull together. Look, it's a huge client for us and a massive contract. I don't make the rules, Emily. I just need you to get the materials done on time and stop being difficult about the timeline.
Difficult? I'm being realistic. Look, if you want it done by Wednesday, I'll just copy and paste some old generic slides into the new template. But don't blame me when the client complains it doesn't fit their business. I've just had enough, Will. I'm checking out.
This is the thing that this is not a challenging conversations course, but obviously things like this can cause friction and, difficulties between people where they might start to blame each other or they start to get a bit unreasonable. So I was interested to see what you think that effect that had on Emily. So what Will did, what effect did that have on Emily? So I'm gonna launch a Mentimeter poll this time. So you're gonna need Probably going to need your phone handy for this because there's a QR code. And it's a word cloud just to get a quick reaction. And I've put one in there to start you off. Some really interesting words. I think the one like being unseen, disregarded, insulted. Obviously, frustrated is our big one in terms of how she felt. But there is something about not being valued and disregarded and underappreciated that was coming out of this. That's, if you put all those words together, that would definitely be one of the key things. That's great. Okay, so nice, quick reaction from everybody there. Brilliant. There's still more coming in, actually. I'm just gonna wait a second. Put on the spot. Yeah, disillusioned. Okay, so let's stop it. Emily, is that how you felt? Did they give you a really good reflection of your emotions at that point?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right then. So Drew, could you launch the poll for me? You get to choose what Will does next. So obviously the answers are a little bit longer than they would normally be on a poll, but have a quick read. So he needs to get her back on side because otherwise nothing's going to change. So have a look at the responses and choose the one that you think is the best one. It's an overwhelming response for the third option. I'm just disappointed that we're not going to get to see the bursting into tears and offering to bribe her with a packet of biscuits. So that would have been fun to have watched. We have got somebody that went with the first option. To be honest, all three, other than the bursting into tears, are not bad. But the one that you chose is actually a really good version. And so what we're going to do is we're going to see that played out. So Will, you've got all that up your sleeve now. They've told you what they want you to do. Let's see if you can do it.
And frankly, I'm not going to burn myself out because this client can't get their act together.
Look, I completely hear you, Emily. It is incredibly frustrating to have the client move the goalposts right when you've put so much energy into making something specifically for them. This feels like a massive unfair ask on top of an already packed week for you.
Well, it is. It's completely unrealistic to expect fresh material by Wednesday when I'm on the road facilitating.
You're absolutely right, Emily. It is. The reality that we're dealing with is that their review date on Wednesday isn't going to move. But what we show them doesn't need to be 100% finished or perfect.
Right. I mean, if we just use our standard presentation templates for the Wednesday sign off, then we can always tweak the specific examples and case studies live on the day next week when I have more time.
That's great. I mean, that sounds like a much better plan. What is the bare minimum outline that we can pull together for Wednesday to keep them happy? And what admin can I take off your plate today to make sure you've got the clear space to do it?
Well, if you can handle the calendar invites for next week and sort the handout printing, I can get the main outline done by tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, I think we could actually make this work without dropping our standards.
Great.
Well done, Will. Excellent example of putting that into practice.
I can still offer her some jammy dodgers if anyone wants.
That might help. I mean, I'm not sure about the glitter ball though.
I thought the glitter ball was the perfect idea, personally. That's what I'd have voted for, but showing who I am more than anything else, I think.
So, I mean, again, obviously, Will didn't just make that up. It was all scripted, as you probably guessed. But again, it's an opportunity just to see actually the model in action. Sorry, what's this? Let's get rid of that. All right. So the ARM model. By the way, we're not saying that you would use all three of these models at the same time. It would be a bit weird. You might choose one of these, or maybe one followed by the other, or depending on what's relevant at the time. But I like this because it's very, very simple. Acknowledge. Always start with empathy. I think be careful, though. Try to avoid things like, I understand how you feel. Because I think if you do that, the other person might be polite and not say anything. But I think most of us go, no, you don't. You've got no idea how I feel because you haven't done all the work. You've got your reality is different to mine. So make it more of a pursuit of understanding, but it's okay to acknowledge.
You could say, I understand why you're feeling like this,
Yes, there you go.
rather than, well, I understand how you feel. I
Yeah.
understand why you're feeling. I really do. I recognize why you're feeling like this.
Absolutely.
That's a very different statement. Yeah.
So it's okay to do that, sort of a bit of emotional acknowledgement. It helps people to feel validated and heard. And then maybe there's a way to reframe it. This is impossible. Maybe it goes to, right, okay, let's just look at our current reality. Where are we at? And then, of course, moving it to positive, moving it forward. You probably notice in all three models, it's about taking it somewhere. Because if we stay in that current place of anxiety, the loop of going round and round and round of, oh my God, this has happened. Why has it happened? It shouldn't have happened. I'm really annoyed. It doesn't go anywhere and it doesn't make us feel any better. And again, this is something that you could use with your team or with a colleague to actually help things smooth out. I would say this model is really more for something that's not too drastic in terms of a challenge, because obviously if it's a real challenge, you might be looking at doing something different. But in the moment where there's a bit of friction, I think if you just remember that key thing, acknowledge first, empathy first, and then see if there's a way to actually sort of bring it back and see where you might be able to move it on. Okay, so last little thing from you in terms of a bit of interaction, because obviously we're coming already, it's gone very, very quickly towards the end of the session, but we're a great believer in reflection and thinking about what you might, have got from this or whatever. So we're going to do a fresh thinking board. If you've used one of these before, you'll know exactly what to do, which is to pull over your sticky notes, which are over here. So you can pull over a sticky note, type in the sticky note, and then you can put up your fresh thinking. And in them, you put your fresh thinking. What are you thinking about differently now or more of now? Or what's it reminded of you of? One thing doesn't have to be war and peace. We obviously don't need you to put in loads and loads and loads. And it's just a nice thing. And then we'll send you the board as one of the resources afterwards. I love post-it notes. I love them in a real training situation. We do this in our real face-to-face training, don't we, Drew? We give everybody post-it notes to record their fresh thinking or their quick wins. I just love this. I just love seeing these all move around. It slightly freaks me out, but I do really like it. That's a really good point. Made me realize I'm better at problem solving than I think I am, but I need to be kinder to myself. Yeah, good point. Yes, it's true. It's nice to know that everybody's in the same boat too, isn't it? I'm glad you like the models. That's good. I'm glad you found some useful techniques. Like I said to you, there's no rocket science. It's nice and simple, and to the point. Right, I'm going to come out of the whiteboard for now because we've got 3 minutes left. And I just want to share one more quick thing with you. And we've got one more last poll to do for something else. But thank you so much for putting those up. And like I said, we'll take a picture of that and send it as a screenshot. All right, go back to the slides. We're nearly there. For those of you that are waiting to have your lunch. Just a reminder that obviously this is a very quick session. We obviously, as a training company, we do little 60-minute versions of this for teams. We do 2-hour virtual sessions, and we do full days. We wouldn't do a full day on that. We would do a full day on managing change or navigating change, that sort of thing. But just to remind you, we're not doing a big sales pitch, but to remind you, we do those things. And there's contact details down the bottom, but you're going to get all of that sent. And most of you have got it anyway, because you've all been on our training. And then in terms of what happens next, we are going to send you a recording. We're going to send you a questionnaire on learning agility, because what we've just done comes straight out of the learning agility toolkit, because it's about change agility. So we're going to send you a questionnaire you can fill in and see where you're at in terms of your learning agility. And we're going to send you a handout with those 3 key models that you can share, use, pull apart, refer to. And then also we are doing another one of these on the 16th of July. This time we're going to be doing it on influencing. So how to get buy-in and agreement. There's another area that people really like help on. So again, completely free, full of value. We're not sure. So we did one of these. This time we did 60 minutes. Last time we did 90 minutes. We just want to know, what do you think? Is this too short or was it just right? Would you prefer 75 minutes, 90 minutes. Most people like the 60-minute format.
Yeah.
Probably because, you know, it fits into a lunchtime or it fits into a morning break, or you can take an hour, but you can't take more than that because of all these changes that are going on in your work life. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. Lovely. Quick thank you to Will and Emily, who took some time out of their own time.
Can I just say one thing as well?
Nothing.
Sorry, just in, we mentioned at the beginning, just if anyone has any questions that have
Oh,
arisen
yeah.
from the training, anything that you think that wasn't quite answered or something I'd like to know a bit more, just whack it in the chat now if you've got anything. If not, don't worry too much about it. But we'd love to put an extra bit of content for anyone who has any specific questions. And that wasn't to derail from the appreciation towards Emily and Will, who have been really helpful today.
Yeah, just that Will and Emily are giving up their time as well. So thank you very much to them. And thank you to all of you, because you made it fun. And, you know, although it's limited, there's limited chance to interact on this because of the way we do it and time. You guys were great. Really, really brilliant stuff in terms of the chat and the polls. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. You know what I'm going to say. Stay cool, stay focused, and don't let it get you down. See you all soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks all. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sean.
Take care,
Thanks,
Sean.
Bruce. See you
Good night,
soon.
guys.
Happy to see you again.